Very good. Now we're going to get a fascinating Gemara coming up today, everybody. Fascinating Gemara. Listen to this Gemara. The Gemara yesterday we learned that there was an issue between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua regarding Arvit, regarding what level of responsibility do we have to pray the Amidah every night? Whether Arvit, the Amidah, is the same as Shachrit and Mincha, or is it a little lower responsibility? That was the discussion yesterday. And Rabbi Gamliel acted strongly with Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel acted very strongly with Rabbi Yeshua, and the rabbis felt that he acted too strong. And it was the third time that he acted very strong with Rabbi Yeshua, and because he acted three times very strong with Rabbi Yeshua, so the other rabbis said that he needs to step down from his position. Rabbi Gamliel, the Nasi, needs to step down from the position of Nasi. And that's what we were up to in the Gemara. So it's an amazing thing that we see from the Gemara that someone could be the Nasi, someone could be the leading rabbi, but if the consensus of all the rabbis is the leading rabbi is not acting in a way that's fitting for the generation, the rabbis, the majority of the rabbis could go ahead and say he's gonna lose his position as Nasi, as the leader, and we're gonna appoint someone else. So that's what we're up to now on Chav Zayin Amud Beis, on 27b. We are on about 5 lines from the bottom. You have it, Mike? 5 lines from the bottom. Ta v'navrei. Let's come and remove Rabbi Gamliel from his position. You have it? Ta v'navrei. Let's come and remove him. Then the Gemara says, okay, you remove him from his position, but who are you going to appoint in his place? Right? Say he needs to step down from his position. Now again, Rabbi Gamliel felt that the approach is to be strict. He felt that the strict approach is the way to go. And other rabbis felt the strict approach was a little bit too strict, a little bit too much. And we can't have that. If the consensus of the rabbis feels it's not good for the generation, it's not good for the people, that it should be too strict, and he can't be the Nasi. So Tov and Avrei, let's remove him from the position. But the Gemara says, Manukam le. So who could take his place as the Nasi? Now, we said yesterday, it seems Rabbi Yeshua was the number 2 man. Rabbi Gamliel was the number 1 man, the Nasi. Rabbi Yeshua, as we indicated yesterday, when Rabbi Gamliel asked, is there anybody that disagrees with my opinion? Rabbi Yeshua was the one who responded on behalf of all the rabbis and said, nobody disagrees with you. So the fact that it was Rabbi Yeshua would seem to indicate that Rabbi Yeshua is the second greatest rabbi or leader in the leadership position. So let's appoint Rabbi Yeshua as the new leader. So the Gemara says an amazing thing. Baal Maisahu. You have it? You have it 5 lines from the bottom, Mike? He's the Baal Maisa. He is the man of the story. He's part of the story. What does that mean? So Rashi says an amazing thing. Rashi says it would cause Rabbi Gamliel a lot of pain that if Rabbi Yeshua would take over, and the issue was between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel told Rabbi Yeshua to stand up and testify, and we're going to testify against you, so to speak. And it was between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. Those were the 2 people that were involved in the story. Rabbi Gamliel treated Rabbi Yeshua too strong, with too much strength. Now, to appoint Rabbi Yeshua to take over Rabbi Gamliel, that would be very hurtful to Rabbi Gamliel. So even if Rabbi Yeshua might be more fit for the position, he's the second greatest rabbi after Rabbi Gamliel. But if there's a sensitivity that's going to cause pain to Rabbi Gamliel, he cannot be the one to appoint him. You understand the greatness of the sensitivity? That the sensitivity, because we're sensitive to Rabbi Gamliel, even though Rabbi Yeshua is the one who should take over as the leader, but we don't allow him to take over as the leader because it will be too painful for Rabbi Gamliel. You know, I was learning yesterday a Gemara, an amazing Gemara, everybody. The Gemara says that one of the rabbis was giving a class, and when he was giving a class, one of the students in the class there was a smell of garlic coming out of, he smelled garlic, the rabbi smelled garlic, and it was difficult for the rabbi to give the class when he smelled the garlic. So what did the rabbi say? Whoever ate the garlic, please step out of the room. So what happened was Rav Chia was there, and Rav Chia, who did not eat the garlic, he stepped out of the room, and everybody stepped out of the room. Everyone followed and left the class, and the class was over, finished early this year. And the next morning, the rabbi's son says to Rav Chia, you hurt my father was very greatly pained because you left the class, you didn't eat the garlic, you left, and everybody else, because you left, everybody else left the class, and there was a lot of bittul Torah. And there was a lot of learning that was lost. So Rabbi Chia said, you know what? It's true. It's a bad thing it's a sin to have bittul Torah, but to embarrass somebody, it's more important to stop the class than embarrassing the guy. Because if I wouldn't have walked out, and then the guy who has the garlic smell would walk out, he would be embarrassed. So we see the great sensitivity, how it is to prevent embarrassment to somebody. So here also we see this point to prevent embarrassing to Rabbi Gamliel, because since Rabbi Gamliel was involved in the story between him and since Rabbi Yeshua was involved in the story, we don't want to create that hurt, that pain to Rabbi Gamliel. So now, who is the second choice to take over? Who would be the choice after Rabbi Yeshua? Nukmal Rabbi Akiva. Let's place Rabbi Akiva. Let's give Rabbi Akiva the position of Nasi. Rabbi Akiva, the great Rabbi Akiva, we all know how great he was. But the Gemara says no. Dilma Anishle, the Leslie Schut Avot. Maybe he's going to get punished because he doesn't have Schut Avot. An amazing thing. What does that mean? Rabbi Gamliel is going to feel bad that he loses the position. If Rabbi Gamliel feels bad that he loses the position, when a great rabbi feels bad and feels hurt, and then he sees this other rabbi takes over his position, that bad feeling of hurt that he has could be used as a punishment to Rabbi Akiva, because in heaven they see that Rabbi Gamliel is very pained, and his pain that this person took over for him. So if the person has zchut avot, the merit of father, that he comes from great background, so then he comes from a great background, so the protection of your grandfather, your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather protects you, that something bad won't happen. But Rabbi Akiva, as you know, he was a son of Gerim. He came from his parent, I think his father was a Ger, and since his father was a Ger, therefore he didn't have that special protection of zchut avot. Like Rav Nissan Gaon says, Rabbi Akiva was a descendant of Gerim. He came from converts. So the Gemara says, so therefore he doesn't have that extra protection. He doesn't have the zchut avot to protect him. Ella, the Gemara says, Nukmil Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Let's appoint Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah as the new Nasi. Why? What does he have going for him? Duhu Chacham. He's a Chacham. Vuhu Ashir, and he's very wealthy. Vuhu Asiri leEzra, and he is 10th to Ezra. So what does he have about him? What is unique about Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? What is unique about Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is, number one, he's brilliant. He's very smart. Good morning, Avrami. He's very smart.
Good morning.
Because you have to realize he's only 18 years old, we're going to see at this time. So he's a chacham. He's brilliant. He's learned. Ru ashir. He's wealthy. That's also a good thing. But when you're wealthy, you don't have to feel that, when a person's not wealthy, sometimes the wealthy people can intimidate him because of their wealth. And he might be sometimes intimidated by the person. But if someone himself is wealthy, doesn't get intimidated by other people who are, so therefore he was not going to be scared of some people sometimes. So therefore it's a very good midah that he should be, if the fact that he's wealthy is a good thing going for him. Hu asiri le'ezra. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is 10th generation from Ezra. Ezra was the one who built the second Beit HaMikdash. And we have a Sefer Ezra. So he has tremendous zchut avot. He has a lot of zchut avot, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So therefore, and now the Gemara says, Hu chacham. How do you know, how do you know, what's the test to see if he's a chacham? Hu chacham, di makshale mefarikle. Any question that they ask him in the Gemara, anything that they ask, anything they ask him, he answers. That's a sign that he's a chacham. Vu ashir, and he is ashir, he's wealthy. The islay lefaluch lebekesa, if you need to go to the king, to the Caesar, to the king, because of the community has certain issues, certain needs, certain problems, certain decrees against Afu Azula Palach. He's able to go, and he's wealthy. He's able to go give presents to the king. The king always likes presents, and as a result of that, he could buy off the king that he shouldn't go ahead and cause problems for the Jewish people. So his wealth. So the Gemara is saying that the wealth didn't say the reason that I said of intimidation. The Gemara says that the greatness of wealth is that it can be used to protect the community. Because since he has wealth, he's in a position to go ahead and use the wealth to protect the community. Hu asiri le'ezra, he's 10th generation to Ezra. The Islay zchut avot, he has merits of his father, v'lo onishlei. And Rabbi Gamliel is not able to punish him. He won't be punished as a result if Rabbi Gamliel feels bad that he takes over. He's not going to be punished because of Rabbi Gamliel feeling bad, because of the merit of his avot. So it's an amazing thing. The zchut avot, when somebody's father, a grandfather, great-grandfather, here the Gemara says 10 generations back, you came from such a holy person that has protection. That protection of that holy person from 10 generations ago will protect 10 generations future. You have to remember, everybody on the screen, what you do today, the way you act, the way you grow, will have the ability to protect your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, all the generations based on your actions. That's zchut avot, and that's powerful. That will create like a shield of protection, so your child won't get won't be punished under certain circumstances. Okay, now. Asuv Armile. They came and they told Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. They came to tell him that we would like to appoint you as the Nasi, as the new Nasi. Nichale lema lehave reish besifta. Would it be easy for you? Are you able to handle it? Are you ready for the job to be the Nasi? And it's interesting, the language of nichale. It means to say that if you presume that they wanted that he should feel confident that he could do the job. Of doing the job. So he responds yes. Oh no, first of all, what was the response? His response was, Amalu, I have to talk to my wife. That's the answer. An amazing thing. He was asked, is it easy for you to be the Rosh HaYeshiva? Is it easy for you to be the head of the Rosh HaYeshiva? To be the Nasi? And because the Nasi, most of the times, the Nasi was the head of the yeshiva. You ran the Beit Midrash. You're the leading rabbi. You're the Nasi. Not just a political position as like the president of the community. Rather, you also had many times, it also contained that you were the Rosh HaYeshiva, the head of the yeshiva. You ran the Beit Midrash. So do you feel that it's easy for you, that you could do it? Amaluhu Ezel v'amlech b'nshei beiti. I need to take advice with the members of my house. Now, which members of his house? So Ozal ve'imlich b'debesu. He went and he took counsel of his wife. He asked his wife's opinion. Because sometimes the wife knows the husband best. And the wife maybe knows would you be able to handle it? You won't be able to handle it. So he says, I want to go ahead and ask her advice. Amrulay. So his wife said to him, now we're on Chav Ches Amud Aleph, from 28a, Mesechus Berachos. His wife said to him, Dilma ma'avrin lach. Maybe they'll remove you from the position, the same way the rabbis removed, are going to remove Rabbi Gamliel from the position of the head of the Nasi, of the head of the community. But maybe they're going to remove you. Maybe you're going to get the position, and then you're going to be demoted. You're going to lose the position. And if you lose the position, maybe you're going to feel bad that you got the position and you lost it. You got such an honor, and then you lost it. So maybe it doesn't pay to get the honor if you're going to go ahead and lose it. So that was her point that she brought up to her husband. And Allah, so he told her, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, "L'shtamesh inish yom achada bekos demokra." There's some people say, there's a saying out there. What's the saying? Let's say you have let a person use a very expensive glass cup, even if tomorrow it will break. People say, you know what? As long as it's not all or nothing. People say it's better to use a glass that's very expensive. And even if it's going to break tomorrow, but at least you had enjoyment today. Take advantage of today's opportunity. So too, the same way they say what's better? Use a glass today and tomorrow it breaks, or not to use it at all. Better to have the pleasure, better to have something good. So you say, or contribution, because you're doing a great thing for the community. So he says, therefore, it's better. It's not a problem, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says. If I become the Nasi and I lose the position tomorrow, but I had it today, I was able to serve the people as a leader today. So that's special. That's unique. The fact that tomorrow I don't have that position, I don't have the position tomorrow, but I got it today. Like a person was a president for one day. I was president for one day. Better to be a president one day and then lose presidents and not be able to not be doing it all. I was able to serve in such an amazing position, serve the people, serve the Jewish community. So therefore, he did not accept. His wife brought up an issue, and that's the idea of a husband and a wife. Husband and a wife is discussion, communication. The wife could bring up a point. The husband could say whether he agrees with the point, doesn't agree with the point. And so that was, he said, I'm not concerned about that.
Rabbi, that's a really lame excuse to say better to do it today and then will break tomorrow. Because I can say, better I go out with no mask and don't keep distance today because I want to enjoy life today. Tomorrow will happen and will happen,
No, Yosef, your example of the mask is not such a great example because the mask, by going out today without a mask, he's not doing the right thing. But here he's saying, I'm doing the right thing. I gave you an example. They give you they offer you a position to be the CEO of a company, and any day you might lose the job. By taking the job, there's a good chance that you're going to be a CEO for one day only. So the people say on the street, better to be a CEO of a company for one day than not to have that, never to have that experience. It's an amazing experience to have such responsibility. What do you say, Yosef Atzadik?
I don't know. It's what's the other option?
Okay, the question is, they are coming, the rabbis are coming, they want me to take the job. But I know I might lose the job any day.
The other option is you don't do anything. You don't take the position. That's the other option.
Right,
Yeah,
that's the
and you keep
position.
your current job, because if you give up your current position or current job to go for 1 day job, is it worth it? I
But
don't think
he
so.
doesn't have, Rabbi Elazar doesn't have a current job. He was probably, he's sitting, it doesn't seem like he's giving up his position to do this. He's an 18-year-old chacham. He doesn't have any great position that he's giving up. And if he would be giving up
So
any,
you got nothing to lose, you're saying.
he's not losing. There's no losing. The only issue is he's going to lose, that he might lose. He's going to work for 1 day. He might work for a Nasi for 1 day.
But he also can lose his name, because if he being 1 day a CEO and he being a bad decision made, so this name will follow him for the rest of his life. Oh, you've been one CEO, you were really bad. We don't want you anymore. Instead of to prep him and to preparing for really to take the job when
It's
he's
a good
really
point,
ready
Yosef,
for it.
but I don't think he was concerned that they would remove him as an incompetency. That he wasn't concerned. But maybe the point that she said is maybe they'll remove you because maybe they'll bring him back. They'll bring back the old Rabbi Gamliel. So now the Amrele said his wife brought up a second point. Les lachavirta. You don't have white hairs. You're fully black hair. You have no white hairs. And when you have no white hairs, so then the question is, people might not respect you so much if you have no white hairs. So, and that will be an issue. So what does the Gemara say? An amazing story. Hahu Yoma bar tamnei saresh nehave. That day, he was 18 years old. Israchash le nisa, a miracle happened. The hadrule tamna sarei darei chavirta. 18 rows of white hair. Instead of he had rows of black hair. He turned white. Now the expression goes, people say overnight, but the way the Gemara says on that day, doesn't say overnight. That day, it would seem that day that they're coming to when he was whether should he take the position or not take the position. That day, a miracle happened, and he got 18 rows of white hairs. And one commentary says that why 18 rows? They correspond to his 18 years. He was 18 years old, to show that he was a tzaddik gamur, that all his 18 years that he lived, all of those years, meaning throughout his whole life, what Ishmael life, he was good. He was a tzaddik from the beginning on. All along.
Well,
Now, so we see, first of all, we see an amazing thing, that his wife was right in a certain sense. Her concern was a real concern, because why did they need to have the miracle happen that you have to turn 18 rows of white? Obviously, she had the concern. She mentioned it, and the miracle happened, and she got it, and he got it. And v'hainu dekamar. That's why we have in the Haggadah, on the Mishnah Berachos, Rabbi Elazar says, Harei ani keben shivim shana. I am like 70 years old. Why is he like 70? Because there's 18 rows of white hair. But he's not 70. Velo ben shivim shana. He didn't say, I am ben shivim shana. He didn't say, I am 70 years. He says, I am like 70 years. Because he's like 70 years because he has this white, beautiful white beard. And the idea of 70 years, because we say 70 years is a time of becoming an old man. Meaning when the Torah says, Bifnei Seva Takum, the Torah says you have to stand up for an elderly person. What is the age of a person that you have to stand up for when it comes within your social distance space? Within your 6 to 8 feet, I got a nice smile out of Shmuel on that one.
Yes.
70-year-old man or a 70-year-old lady that comes within your Dalan Amod, you need to stand up, a full standing. You stand up the whole way, not just a little shuffle on the chair. You stand up a whole way if they come within your Dalan Amod, an old man or an old woman. 70 years, and therefore that's what he said. I am like 70. I have the hairs. An older rabbi, people respect that older rabbi, right? The older rabbi people have more respect than the younger rabbi, even though you have to respect the younger rabbi too. But the concern is that not everybody is on the level to give the proper respect. So therefore, the miracle happened that he became white. Tana, and we learned in a Braita. Oto Hayom, that day, that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was appointed as the Nasi, Silkuhu l'shomei hapetach. They removed, there was a security, there was a guard at the entranceway to the Beit Midrash. V'nitel lahem reshut hatalmidim lekones. And now it was open for all students to enter the Beit Midrash. What was the policy? What was the guard doing there? So the Gemara says, Shahir Rabbi Gamliel, when he was the Nasi, he was the one that they just removed. Machriz v'omer. He would announce, Kol Talmid she'ein tocho kibaro. Any student, if your inside of you is not as doesn't reflect your outside, what does that mean? Let's say the students wore clothing like rabbi's clothing that shows you that you're a rabbi or a student of the yeshiva. But the question is, not everybody acts in their private life. Sometimes they don't live up to what their clothing represents. Your clothing might represent that you're a holy person, but you have a Yetzer Hara, and sometimes some of the students might have fallen and not be on the high level. So they had a policy, if you're not in that level, you can't come into the Beit Midrash. Only a person who reached the level that your inside of you is just like the outside. And the way in Yuma, the Gemara, it's explained over there, the Berachos says that a person who is osek b'Torah, let's say you're learned, you know how to learn Gemara, you know how to learn very well, but if you don't have Yirat Shemayim, if you don't have Yirat Shemayim, if you don't have inside of you, you don't. Now, who knows who has the Yirat Shemayim? Only the person themselves knows if he has that level of Yirat Shemayim. So if you feel that you don't have that level of Yirat Shemayim, even though you might be learned, you might know and learn, but you still haven't mastered Yirat Shemayim. You still haven't mastered being God-fearing the way you should be. Therefore, you can't. They said you can't come to the Beit Midrash. First, master your Yirat Shemayim, and then come into the Beit Midrash. That was the policy that they had. Or some understand. Let's say you learn Torah, but you're not learning it for the perfect reason. If you're not learning it for the right reason, let's say you're learning it because you want people to call you rabbi. That's not the right reason why you learn. You learn because you're supposed to learn. Hashem says to learn Torah. You're not supposed to learn because you want to get a fringe benefit because they should call you rabbi. People should honor you. So if you're learning if you didn't reach the level that you're learning for the right reason, I don't want you in the Beit Midrash. I want the people in the Beit Midrash to be the people who have the purest sense in their Yirat Shemayim, in their way they're learning, why they're learning, for the right reasons. That was Rabbi Gamliel's strict policy. And he felt by having such a policy that will encourage the people to reach the level of Yirat Shemayim, to reach the level of the Shema. That was Rabbi Gamliel's position, how he felt, different people have different ways they feel things should be done, right? You find in a company, this person has this way they want to run the company, and this person has the way they want to run the company, right? Different style, right? Mike, am I right or not? Avrami, am I right? So the two rabbis, Rabbi Gamliel's style was a strict style. He felt that's the way to go. You got to be strict with the people. And you got to tell them if they don't have the Yirat Shemayim, even though you know how to learn well, don't come to the Beit Midrash. Learn Mesilat Yesharim 100 times before you come, right? I mean, Mesilat Yesharim wasn't around yet. But the point is, The safe, you have to learn Musar. You want to get Yiras Shamayim, you have to learn Musar. That will help you. So that was his position. And the guard at the Beit Midrash, somehow, they would be able, how they were able to tell, or that they would ask the person straight, and the person would be honest. They said, I'm not on that level. You can't come in. You can't come in. But now Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is the leader. He has a different policy how he wants to run. He has a different policy how he wants to run the yeshiva. His policy how he wants to run the yeshiva is that it's open for everybody. Even if the guy doesn't have, even if the inside is not like the outside, even though you didn't master on your inside the fear of Hashem, ul shma, come to the Beit Midrash. Still, come to the Beit Midrash. And we're going to see an amazing thing that happened. So what happened was, that day, also Hayom, they removed the Shomer Petach. They removed the guard on the guard of the Beit Midrash. Again, I'm going to be reading, and they gave permission for all Talmidim to come in. Because Rabbi Gamliel had this policy. Now, Ahu Yoma, on that day, itosfu kama safseli. In the Beit Midrash, they had to add many benches because so many people came to the Beit Midrash. They had to add a lot of benches for the people to come to sit to hear the class. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Pligi bo Abba Yosef ben Dustoy v'Rabbanan. There's a machluke between Abba Yosef ben Dustoy and the Rabbanan, and how many benches did they need to add on that day? Chad Omar, one says, Itosfu arba me'ah safsuli. They added 400 benches on that day. V'chad Omar, shva me'ah safsuli. Some say they added 700 benches to accommodate all the new students, the students that are coming in. Now, there's another Gemara in Yuma that says that Rabbi Gamliel also felt to charge some money in order, you want to come into Beit Midrash, you have to pay for it to come in. And I presume maybe his reason was because if you're going to pay for it, when something is free, people sometimes might not appreciate enough, perhaps. And therefore, maybe he says, but therefore, if you have to pay to come in, right, you'll appreciate it and you'll take your works more seriously. Perhaps that was his reason. So it seems like, so perhaps he had two things that he was very particular about. Number one, your inside has to match your outside. You have to be Yiras Shamayim. You have to be learning for the right reasons. You have to have perfected your midot, the Yiras Shamayim, that you're God-fearing. And number two, he also charged. Now he took off both. Now Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, a new man on the block. I should refer to him as a new man on the block, a new great rabbi there. And he says he removes these restrictions. Now, Rabbi Gamliel saw what happened. He sees, he saw he added so many benches to the Beit Midrash. So many more people came to the Beit Midrash. So Rabbi Gamliel says he felt very faint. He felt very weak. Well, Omar, he says, maybe I held back Torah from the Jewish people. Maybe my policy was wrong. If I see so many people coming to the Beit Midrash, so many people coming, and when I was Nasi, when I was the king, when I was the president, I was the leader, they didn't come because of my policy. So maybe my policy was wrong, and I have held back so much Torah, and Rabbi Gamliel is also concerned that he will be punished. Rashi emphasizes he was very concerned that he shouldn't be punished for holding back the people from coming to the Beit Midrash. Because if you're a rabbi and you're a leader and you create a policy and that policy causes that people shouldn't learn Torah as much as they could have, in heaven they're gonna take him accountable for it. You had a wrong policy and you should have had a better policy. It's a responsibility. When a person's a leader, a rabbi of a shul, a rabbi of anything, it comes with responsibilities. Because if you don't act on the job performance is not what you could have done, and you could have done more for the people. God is gonna. That's one of the reasons why people don't want to become a rabbi and they don't want to take the position, because they know it comes with it responsibility and great achrayot. And if you don't meet all the responsibilities, then God is going to have a claim against them. And it's the same thing. I would like to say, it's the same thing of a husband in a house, a family. God blesses someone with children, a wife. The husband has responsibilities to make sure to try his best to be on top of the game as much as possible, to inculcate in the children and the wife that everything Yirat Shamayim, God forbid, to do the right thing. If a husband does not watch what happens in the house, if a husband is just, he gets lost in his whole things and doesn't keep focus on the children and the family, he will have to answer for it because that's his responsibility. So the Gemara says, what happened? So Hashem showed Rabbi Gamliel in a dream. They showed him chatzbei chivrai the mulyan kitma, jars, white, white is elegant, white is pure. The mulyan kitma that was filled with ashes. Ashes have no value, so to speak. That means to say the jar looks beautiful on the outside. It's white on the outside, but on the inside, it's filled with nothing. It's filled with ashes. What kind of use do you have for ashes? It's not filled with delicious wine. They showed him a mug, a little jar filled with ashes, a white, beautiful jar. A makasa. You know what makasa is, everybody? You know the makasa? You know what I'm talking about, makasa? Makasa, they make nice glass jars. They make nice jars. There's makasa knives. So they showed him a makasa container, and on the inside was ashes. Meaning to say, so it's good that all these students that were added to the Beit Midrash, they might look nice on the outside. They learn Torah, but on the inside they're missing. They didn't perfect themselves. So meaning to say, Rabbi Gamliel, you shouldn't feel so bad that so many people are coming to Beit Midrash because they're like this jar that has ashes inside, which is not worth much. And therefore, don't feel bad about your past policy. But the Gemara says, Velohi, even though Hashem showed him in the dream, it wasn't because Hashem was showing him that your policy was right. Really, maybe your policy was wrong. But they showed it to him just to make him feel a little better. Meaning it's an amazing thing that Hashem had mercy on Rabbi Gamliel, that Hashem wanted to show him a dream that maybe will make him feel better about his past policy, but not in reality, was that really the right policy? But it just shows you the sensitivity that Hashem has for the Chacham. Rabbi Gamliel was a great man. Great people could make mistakes. So the fact that he made a mistake doesn't mean that he's still not great, that we're not concerned for his feelings. So now, Tana, we learned it at Braita. Idiot. Remember we heard about idiot? Remember we learned about idiot? Remember idiot is the Mishnayot that we said is the most, of all the Mishnayot, idiot contains, what it contains in idiot is the law follows what's stated in idiot. Because idiot, what we said was Mishnayot, that the law, that what was brought down in that Masechta is the halacha. It's generally the halacha follows those Mishnayot that is in idiot. And Now the Gemara says, when was Idiot taught? This Masechta of Idiot. When was this Masechta formulated? Bo Bayom Nishneh. It was on this day, on the day that Rabbi Gamliel was removed from his position, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah took over the position. On that day, so many rabbis came, so many people, students came to the Beit Midrash. Hundreds and hundreds, who knows how many? If they added 400 benches or 700 benches, how many people could sit on a bench? I don't know. But with all those rabbis that came in, what happened was there was a lot of give and take in the Beit Midrash, a lot of questions, a lot of answers. And Rashi explains, when you have so many students coming in, they ask good questions, right? Mike asks good questions. Everybody asks good questions. You know what happens as a result of the questions? You get better answers. You come up with new ideas, new understandings. So on that day, the Masechta Idiot was taught. And whenever we say Bo Bayom, on that day, Hahu Yom Haveh, it means that day. That was the day that Elazar ben Azariah took over. There was no halacha that was suspended, not answered in the Beit Midrash. Everything was answered in the Beit Midrash. Any question was answered. Shalom Pershua. That they did not, there was no question that wasn't expounded upon and answered. Because how were they able to answer? Because of all the new students that came in. Now, to me, this is an amazing point. Look here, who are these students that came in? These were students that weren't perfect on the inside. But the fact that they came to learn and they wanted to learn, even though on the inside they weren't yet on the Madrega of Yirat Shemayim, fear of Hashem, or whatever it was, but they have a lot what to add. They have a lot what to make a difference, and therefore look how many they made a great difference. And they brought so much Torah to the world. These students, because through these students. Even Rabbi Gamliel, the Gemara says, even though he lost the position of Nasi, what do you think he did? You think he went home depressed? You know where he went? He went back to the same Beit Midrash. He went to the Beit Midrash. I mean, Lahavdil Elef Avdolot, we just had an inauguration of a new president, right? Trump did not go to the inauguration of the president, correct? He went home, right? This rabbi, he stayed, even though Rabbi Gamliel was the head of the yeshiva, but he goes back to the same yeshiva. He understands that the fact that he lost the position as Nasi, I still got to go back to the yeshiva. He goes back to the Beit Midrash. Afilu sha'achat, the Gemara says. He didn't hold back himself from the Beit Midrash, even for a moment, for an hour, or whatever. He never left the Beit Midrash. He didn't allow his demotion, losing his job as Rosh HaYeshiva, to affect how he needs to act in life. Because at the end of the day, he needs to learn Torah too. And where's the best place to learn Torah? In the Beit Midrash. That's where all the Talmidei Chachamim are. So he remained in the Beit Midrash. The Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, Bo Bayom, on that day. Mike, we're in the first wide line on the page. You see it? Bo Bayom, on that day. Bo Yehuda, Ger Amoni Lifneihem Beit Midrash. There was a ger, a convert from Ammon, from the nation of Ammon. He came to the Beit Midrash. Omar Lahem. What does it mean? He came from the family of Ammon. And the Torah says about Ammon that Ammoni is someone who converts to Judaism from the nation of Ammon, cannot marry a Jewish girl from birth. Can marry another convert, but not a Jewish. Now we know it says Lo Yova Ammoni Umoavi, also the nation of Ammon and Moab. Both of those nations, a male convert cannot marry a Jewish person from birth. However, a female from Ammon or a female from Moab who converted to Judaism can marry a Jew from birth. And who was the great example of that? Ruth. Ruth was from Moab. She was a female convert from Moab, and she married Boaz, a Jew from birth. The prohibition of the Torah is only for a male convert from Ammon. A male convert from Moab cannot marry a Jew from birth, Jewish people. So now the Gemara says, comes Yehuda. Yehuda is a convert from Ammon. So he's a male convert. So you would say that he should not be able to marry, right? A Jew from birth, because Ammon, the Torah says, that he can't marry a Jew from birth. And again, the reason why Hashem said they can't marry a Jew from birth was as a penalty, because when the Jews came out of Mitzrayim, they did not give us any, they didn't give us any drink, any food, and so on and so forth. So Amar lo Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel says, Asura tolavo b'kal. Rabbi Gamliel said, he said, because the guy said, he says, Amar lehem, mani lavo b'kal. Can I marry a Jew from birth? Amar Rabbi Gamliel, Asura tolavo b'kal. You're not allowed to go up to marry someone from a Jew from birth. Amar lehem, Rabbi Yeshua, muta ata lavo b'kal. Yeshua says you could marry someone who was born Jewish. Now the Gemara explains. And we'll just finish up this piece and then we'll end. Rabbi Gamliel says to Rabbi Yeshua, you see, the fact that Rabbi Gamliel lost his position, he doesn't stop talking to the other rabbis, and he lost the position because of the way he treated Rabbi Yeshua. But look, he doesn't say, I can't talk to the man. He's talking to the man. He understands that's not the way a Jew acts. He talks to him. He says, it says that someone from Ammon cannot marry, a convert from Ammon can't marry a Jew from birth. So how could this Yehuda, who is a convert from Ammon, marry a Jew from birth? Rabbi Yeshua says, because the people from Ammon are no longer, they were already mixed up in the nations of the world. There's no true Ammoni person today. As Ammon and Moab, are they living in their original place? Are they living in Ammon and Moab? Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, he mixed up all that. He moved everybody around. He mixed them all up. Shenema, as it says in the Nevuah of Yeshaya, regarding the king of Ashur, it says over there, "V'asir gvulas amim." V'asir gvulas amim v'astasayim shosesi. Now, asir gvulas amim. Sancheriv said, "This is what Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, says. I'm going to move around. V'asir gvulas amim. I'm going to move the nations around. V'asidosayim shoseti, and I'm going to take their special treasures. Each nation has treasures of the country. I'm going to take those treasures. V'orid ka'abir yoshvim. I am going to bring down those people from their great positions of greatness. I'm going to remove them from their positions. And therefore, that's what he did. He moved the nations around. V'chol de parish beruba parish. And the rule is, you go from the majority. Anybody if you have a majority, now that all the nations are mixed up, so one person comes and he says, "Can I convert?" So he comes from the majority, whoever the majority of the nation of the people are. Most people are not from the nation of Ammon. Most of the non-Jewish world are other nations of the world, which don't have restrictions of marrying Jews from birth. Ammon has the restriction of marrying a Jew from birth. Moab, but since they became mixed in the melting pot, and there's no law, and therefore, so if a convert comes in front of us, he can marry a Jew from birth, because we say his convert comes from the majority, and the majority is not Ammon. The majority is not.
Isn't it, Rabbi, that the convert have to wait 2 generations to get married with Israelites?
Say that again.
Isn't it that a convert have to wait 2 generations?
No, that's by a mitzri. I think by a mitzri. by a convert from the Jew, from the Egyptians, it says they have to wait till the third generation. But a general convert doesn't. That's a special restriction on a mitzri. They have to wait to the third generation. But not on, that restriction was not on Rus Hamomavia. There's no restriction for marrying first generation. She was first generation convert, and she married Boaz.
Okay, and so Ammon cannot in any kind.
Ammon can never. A male from Ammon who converts can never.
Marry the Israelite.
Right.
And what about women?
Woman would be allowed.
Why is that difference?
Because the men who are the people that go out to greet people to bring food. It's the men of Ammon and Moab who should have taken the responsibility to give the Jewish people food when they came out of drink and bread when they came out of Egypt. But they were the ones, since it was the men who should have done it, so the fine was only against the men, not against the women. So the Gemara says, we have another pasuk that says, Hashem says, later on, Hashem says that in the end of days, I'm going to bring the people back. I'm going to bring the people from Ammon back to their country. And he says, and I believe they already came back. It's true Sancheirav mixed them up. But by now, Hashem brought the people of Ammon back to their place, original place. Amar Rabbi Yeshua, no. It says, Hashem says, I'm going to return the people, the Jewish people that went into captive, back to their town. So therefore, they're still mixed up, and therefore you can marry them. And miyad hitiru lavo bakala. And therefore they followed Rabbi Yeshua, and they permitted him to marry a Jew from birth. Okay, I want to wish everybody, we'll continue tomorrow. Fascinating Gemara, everybody. Thank everybody for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akiva, we're going to try. Thank you, everybody.